Our topic tonight focuses on what's happening with small businesses here in Tampa Bay. There seems to be a trend going on, and it's changing our local marketplace every day. What's happening, and who could be behind it? Because these are our issues, Tampa Bay. Hello, I'm Jen Holloway. There's a buzzword being heard from Polk to Sarasota to Hernando. Startups. Startup, as in a small business, choosing Tampa Bay as a great place to start up. And thanks to a recent change to the Jobs Act by the Securities and Exchange Commission, finding funding is now a whole lot easier. Here to talk about some of these changes is someone who knows firsthand the challenges of being an entrepreneur. David Etheridge. He's the founder of a new startup called SavvyCard. Now, David, on July 10th of this year, the SEC voted to allow startups to advertise their securities offerings directly to potential investors. What difference does this make to entrepreneurs?
Well, it's going to make a tremendous difference. For the last 50 or 60 years, companies couldn't actually solicit their offerings to investors directly, which was kind of crazy because you almost had to network into meeting with investors without ever actually telling them that you were raising capital. And then once you got to sit down in front of them, you could kind of talk around the issue, show them what you were doing, talk about your company, and you were waiting for them to pop the question and say, what are you doing about funding? But you never really could directly address it because that was solicitation and the SEC didn't allow it.
Okay, so now do you think we're going to see solicitation on billboards,
Oh, yeah.
social media?
Yeah,
Anywhere.
I think it's going to be the wild, wild west. I think we're going to see people taking out full-page advertisements in magazines and newspapers. Certainly, one of the most common things we'll see is that you couldn't put any information on your website in the past about your current investment offering, and you certainly couldn't solicit for investors to contact you through your website. So I think the most common thing that's going to happen is that startups are going to start adding an investors section to their website where they publish some information about the current offering and they invite investors to get in contact with them to learn more. But I also think we're going to see some innovative new ways for companies to reach out to potential investors. And it's interesting in Tampa, one of the biggest challenges that startups have in Tampa is a visibility problem. There are investors here. There's a lot of savvy individuals who have made their money in markets like New York or Philadelphia, and they have a second home in the Tampa area. And they've invested in companies kind of in their primary marketplace up in the Northeast, but then they come down to Tampa to relax and kind of winter, and they just don't think about connecting with startups in this area. Right. And so there's money, there are investors, they just aren't aware of the robust technology ecosystem, that startup ecosystem that Tampa has, and the repealing of this law is going to help us to get the word out and create more visibility for startups in this area. That's
good. That's great for entrepreneurs. How did you get started?
So our company was started in 2010, but it's actually kind of been brewing since the early 90s. I was running business development for Hasbro Interactive up in Boston, and we did some research on mobile devices. And as a part of our research, we realized that eventually people were going to be carrying around the equivalent of a computer in the palm of their hand. Well, back in those days, phones were, these huge phones with they didn't even have texting capability at that point. And so we knew it was going to be a while, 10 years, maybe 15 years before we saw something like an iPhone, but we knew it was going to happen. And that was when I kind of first got the idea that there was going to be a transformational event when cell phones like the iPhone first appeared. They were going to change the way business and entertainment was done, and that there would be a tremendous amount of opportunity associated with mobile computing. And we decided at that point we wanted to have a business idea ready to go when that day came.
And why Tampa Bay? Is this a good place to start up? I keep hearing it is.
It's tremendous. There were a couple of articles recently. Forbes had an article, and Fast Company had an article on Tampa. I can't remember which is which, but one of them picked Tampa as the second best place in the United States for young entrepreneurs to start a company. And the other picked Florida as the top state in the United States for startups.
Yes.
And a lot of the reason why, I mean, traditionally when you think of a technology startup, you think of Silicon Valley, or even Austin, which is a great place to start a company traditionally. But what's happened is the cost of talent in those markets has increased tremendously. The cost of living has increased tremendously. Buying a house in San Jose or buying a house in Austin, very, very expensive. And the other thing that happens is you get companies like Google and Dell and Facebook poaching your talent. So if we thought about the possibility of moving to Silicon Valley when we started the company, and what we were told, we actually flew out to San Francisco and met with a number of entrepreneurs out there, and we were told that the biggest challenge they faced was all their talent was being poached away by the big companies like Google and Facebook. And so Tampa's a phenomenal place. I mean, we have a very, very strong university infrastructure that's generating a lot of talent and a lot of interesting technological patents and intellectual property. So it's a rich environment for both talent and IP. And the other part of it is that when I talk to people and tell them, hey, would you like to move to Tampa to work for our company? It's a fantastic place to live and work and play. Cost of real estate is very, very affordable. You can get waterfront real estate here, on a kind of entry or mid-level salary where you can't even consider that in San Francisco.
No way.
And so it's just a fantastic place to be able to attract talent. And when you're done working, you can go to the beach. Wow,
that's great. Well, good luck with your company. It's Savvy Card, and I'm sure it's going to continue to grow. I think that's great. And thank you for all your advice on what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Well, up next, once your startup is open for business, how do you keep your company flourishing? Well, we found a local innovative program keeping companies on the edge of competition. We'll be right back.